rise and shine. Pour yourself a cup of coffee and tune in to Good Morning Aurora. News, weather, and really cool interviews. Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m.
Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. It's a part two. The time is 9:59 a.m. And like Josue Pais said, good morning to you, Josue Pais. Yes, there is a part two. That's right. As you guys know, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce recently highlighted and gave a lot of showering praise to a great number of businesses, and we are blessed and highly favored to interview these businesses. Yesterday, we did Marie Wilkinson's Food Pantry. Shout out to Diane Renner and Christina Campos, great people. But today, I'm proud to announce we got somebody new. The man who's winning the Best Shirt Award, definitely, ladies and gentlemen, when the camera comes on, you will see that. But the executive director, owner? Co-CEO of Endiro Coffee, Mr. Cody Lorance. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
All right. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Many good things have been taking place at Endiro Coffee, one of which, as you and I were just talking about, is the community fridge project that's going on. And we will get to that. For you listeners, we'll be here for 30 minutes, a quick interview with Mr. Lorance, but we look forward to highlighting and showcasing Endiro Coffee a whole lot more. As an introduction, I'll let them know who you are, but briefly talk about yourself and Endiro, and good morning.
Good morning. Wow. Yeah, that's a very big question. I'm Cody. I'm not from here. I'm from Oklahoma, actually, but been living in the Chicagoland area for kind of ever. So, yeah, moved to Aurora several years back, and my background is actually in church work. I've been a pastor and a church planter, and not necessarily a good one, but I was one.
That's why you're in coffee now, right?
Yes, exactly. So, right, just couldn't make enough money in church work, so no. Moved over to Endiro in 2013. So Endiro, just a little more background. To those of you guys that are coming to the shop here, you may not know that we actually opened that's not our first location. That's like our 6th or 7th location.
Wow.
We opened the first Endiro in Kampala, Uganda in 2011. And now we have we like literally just opened another coffee shop in Kampala, and we have another one opening up like any week now in Kenya, in Mombasa, Kenya. So
okay.
I've literally lost count. I have to go back and check to see how many shops we are in total, but I think we're around 15. That's just a good round number anyway. And then we do a lot of coffee farming, which we started in 2015. Now I can't get my grass to grow, but I turn out to, as it turns out, I'm pretty good at managing agriculture on a large scale. So I do that, help do that for the company. And so we have 2 farmer groups, farmer cooperatives that produce to date about 50 tons of coffee a year. We're about to increase that significantly. So all the coffee that you drink at Endiro in Aurora or Endiro anywhere else that you find us is from our own farms and our own farmers.
Wow.
So my job is now, like myself and Gloria Katsime, who has been here many times, and many of the listeners, watchers probably have met her. We are co-CEOs now, but being sort of that founding generation, that just means that we do everything that we need to do, and hopefully over time hire people to do those things like with proper titles. But at this point in time in my life, my job is mostly facilitating payment of bills and doing some menu development work and some branding, and then the farm-based stuff.
Cool.
That's what I do. I am married. My wife and kids are here in Aurora. Two of my kids work at the shop. My third one is about to be old enough to work at the shop, and he can't wait. So that's good, cheap labor.
Right.
I highly
He
recommend
can't wait,
it.
or Dad
Yeah.
can't wait. Which
Both and
both.
yeah. So yeah, that's us. That's the Lorances here.
Very cool. So Michelle Gums is here. Good morning. Hi, Cody. She's a dear friend of the show.
Hi, Michelle.
Aisha Saxon is here. Good morning to you as well. And your grass be growing at my house. Feel free to come cut it if you are missing out. I like that.
I don't like to cut grass. That's also why I have children. Now I only have three, and now that they're grown, I'm kind of wishing I had stuck with my original plan of like having 8 kids, but because they're good little workers when they get older. I don't know. Maybe you guys with teenagers cannot relate, but my teenagers, they like to work. So
Good stuff.
nice. Yeah.
So 2013 is when this location opened.
Now this location opened in 2017.
2017.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Kampala is the capital
Yes.
of Uganda.
Mhm.
All right. So what is now you've got the food is great. Everything is fantastic. The business is wonderful as well. And as we were talking before the microphone came on, there's also a sense of community that fosters within Endiro, culminating right now in the Community Bridge Project. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Gloria and myself, neither of us got into business for normal human reasons. We were both working in kind of the NGO and nonprofit realms.
NGO, non-government?
Yes, non-government organization. Okay. That's what they're called. That's basically a nonprofit, but Uganda, we call them NGOs, and here we call them nonprofits. But okay. We were both working in those areas. I was working mostly amongst immigrants and refugees here in Chicagoland, and she actually had been a journalist working in Nepal, and prior to that had been doing documentary filmmaking in Uganda, focused on child vulnerability, especially looking at the issue of child-headed homes in Uganda, which is a big deal there. So we kind of backed up into business. She kind of got us started in that area. At some point, she said, "I'm going to start a coffee shop," and I'm pretty sure I told her that it was a dumb idea. Because one, she didn't drink coffee, and that seems like a strange thing to open a coffee shop just because you like the smell but hate the taste. But
right,
nevertheless, she wanted to do that, and I also, with no business experience, it seems to be a bad idea. But she opened that first shop in Kampala with the idea of trying to make a bit of sort of sustainable source of money that can be used to help projects that were working with vulnerable children in Uganda, which is cool. I mean, and very noble, but I also still thought it was going to fail. It didn't fail. It did reasonably well. I came along in 2013 on sort of a forced vacation because I was kind of burning out in my daily job, and my wife just essentially put me on a plane and said, "You're going to
What was that daily job?
That's where I was working with refugees and immigrants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was frying me after a while, but so I went to visit the coffee shop. I took a big fat book with me, and I thought I'm just going to sit and read and drink some coffee for like 2-3 weeks, and then go home. And what happened is so not everybody knows this about me, but I cooked my way through college at a really fancy restaurant called Waffle House. That was way back in the 90s.
Okay.
And that's how I learned to cook. And it was actually a great experience, even though I still have about 2 Waffle House nightmares a year. So it's
formative experience.
But I became like really picky about how my breakfast was cooked, right? So
okay.
I'm there in Uganda. I'm at this coffee shop, and I'm having my cappuccino, and my eggs keep getting overcooked, undercooked, cooked in a completely wrong way. And I was getting frustrated because I'm like, I just want 2 eggs over medium.
Right.
It's easy, And so I asked Gloria if she minded if I go back to the kitchen and just show the cooks there like what I mean when I say over medium. Okay, that's fine. Ended up spending like most of the day back there, and one thing leads to another. That night, Gloria and I were just praying and weeping as we realized that I mean, the way I look at it is that God wanted me to be a part of this business, and think very different, bigger thoughts. And so 2013, I joined the company, and we opened 2 additional shops that year.
Okay.
So that brought us to 3 shops. A couple years later, we got into farming, and but the beginning, that your question was about our social impact, our community. The whole motivation at the beginning was not let's start a business and make money. It was let's start a business that will make money, and then we can use that money to help projects, ministries and organizations that are helping vulnerable children in Uganda. And then as we grew, our vision grew to be more of a global vision.
Right.
And then as we matured as business owners, we realized that we could actually redesign the way we did business. So instead of just donating, part of our revenues, we could actually accomplish that vision through just redesigned business operations. So how do we hire? If we are hoping to end child vulnerability, are we creating jobs that lead to careers for young people that otherwise are in vulnerable situations in Uganda? What about? And then when we got to our coffee, which are obviously our primary product, we started to dig beyond the certification. We were buying fair trade certified coffee, but then when we got to meet the farmers that were producing it, we learned that they were only getting about 1/10 of that fair trade price because of all the different layers, middlemen and other exploitation that took place in the value chain. So at that point, we knew we couldn't just say, hey, we got fair trade coffee, and ignore the fact that we know our farmers are still living in absolute poverty.
Right.
So that's when we got into direct coffee growing and coffee farming ourselves, where we knew we could control exactly how much money the farmers were paid. And we've avoided fair trade certification just because of how expensive that certification process is, and decided to put that money towards the farmers themselves instead. So everything that we've done from the start, though sometimes we do it badly and sometimes we make wrong decisions, everything has been motivated by how can we make the biggest positive impact possible wherever we find ourselves in this tree to cup value chain. Our motto, brew all the good you can, is based on this old John Wesley quote, where he says, do all the good you can in all the ways you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. And I love the desperation in that quote of like, gosh, we just have to do all that we possibly can to make this world a better place. And we just changed the do to brew because it's cute. But that as our motto is part psychological problem that I have, but also part like genuine inspiration that whatever we do, if it's a coffee shop, if it's a farm, if it's a roastery, we want to be a net positive to that community. Eventually, I would like to make a salary, but that is not the priority. The priority has been, how do we, when Endiro comes to town, we want it to be a positive thing for that community. Right. We want to create jobs that become careers. We want to make an environmentally positive impact, not just a neutral impact. We want to give back. We want to be, as a coffee house, we want to create space for people. It's been nice to see since 2017 how much this downtown community has grown. Yeah. And it's been fun to watch, whether it's an organization or a new business or something, to see initial conversations take place at the coffee shop. Oh yeah. And then has become a second conversation, a third, and then suddenly there's a business being formed or something that's doing something good, or an organization, or other meetings that happen, first dates or blind dates, or people getting trained for new posts and things like that. So it's cool to watch. So creating space is also a big part of it. And so the community fridge is a natural kind of outflow of what's already intentionally in our DNA as a company.
It fit the mission very well.
Yeah, there's hunger. in food insecurity. And I was talking to somebody from Uganda last week. He's a prominent government official, and he was surprised that there was hunger in America. And he's like, "You're like the richest and most well-fed country in the world. How is there hunger?" And I'm like, that is a problem,
right?
There is, and I may not be able to solve all of those root causes, but if we partner in the right ways, we can at least provide a few meals to some people.
Absolutely. Jen Ingram, good morning. We love Endiro. Sally Bice, good for your teenagers. Can I borrow them? We're not trading kids on the show just yet, Sally. But good stuff. Luma Webster, good morning to you, and Michelle Aisha Saxon, good morning. So, what was the penny drop moment for you? What was the moment where you were like, okay, I got to put my suit on? Was it the moment you went back in the kitchen to show the eggs being done and all that? But what was the moment where you were able to see, because you grew up in Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
I lived in Tulsa for a few years when I was a kid, but from Oklahoma to Uganda,
mm-hmm.
not many people make that journey. So I'm curious, what was the moment where Cody was like, you know what? Yeah, the world is it's an interesting world we live in with a lot of problems for folks. Here's how I want to make what was that moment for you?
There's been a lot of those moments,
okay.
Honestly. I'm getting not younger, so I keep accumulating these moments.
Right.
But, I'm from not just Oklahoma. I'm from like nothing Oklahoma. So it is weird for me to be as global citizen type of person. But my parents have over time come to understand that they'll never quite understand, but they've accepted it. It's like, yes, Cody's always going to be someplace weird in the world, doing something weirder, and that's okay. But I don't know. I think there was a big moment for me. There's too many, but let me pick a couple.
I understand that, sure, yeah.
One was 2010. I was invited to go to this big event in Cape Town, South Africa. I was representing the United States in a global congress, 200 nations represented there. It was a very big honor, and I was not qualified to be there, but I was there, and it was a long, challenging week where I barely slept and had plenty of personal attacks. I mean, it was tough. And at the last night of that event, they were doing a big kind of celebration service. I was sitting alone at a table with Gloria, who was later to become founder of Endiro.
Right.
And we didn't talk much. We just had met during that event. And she was sitting on one end of the table, I was sitting on the other. And it was like she was kind of keeping guard just to make sure nobody else would sit at the table, because she knew I needed to do business with God, essentially. And so I spent most of that evening just kind of bawling, crying,
right?
Because I realized that there needed to be a big change. And I'd been doing, good things with my life, I feel like, but that was the moment when I made a promise to myself and to God that going forward, I was only ever going to do the most important thing I could think of, for the sake of, as I would put it in my own words, for the sake of the kingdom of God.
Right.
But if you would prefer, for the sake of making this world a better place.
Absolutely.
So from there, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew it. If that meant I needed to run for president, or if that meant I needed to start a company, if that meant I needed to do something completely different, whatever it was, that's what I would do. The most important thing I could think of. And I have kept that promise to myself. And so I'm doing this because it's the most important thing I can think of. I can have the most impact I can imagine in this position. Now, if I had a few $1 billion in my pocket, maybe I could have more impact. But
sure.
for where we are right now, I'm happy with what we're able to accomplish. And I'm also happy knowing that, and a lot of restaurant owners probably had this feeling, we're you're afraid that maybe we'll go bankrupt next week or maybe tomorrow or something. And as I've had that feeling the last couple of years, one of the gratifying things has been that even if I go bankrupt tomorrow, what the bank can't take back is what we've been able to do for people, you know, and how young people have grown, how they've developed their resume, their leadership skills, their salary scales. How our farmers have gone from making less than $1 a day to now approaching Uganda's median income. So these things have been accomplished. They're done. They can't be undone, and we're really proud of that.
Right.
So the next point that I had mentioned is just somewhere when we were in that process of understanding how our business could go from making money and giving it away to reinventing ourselves around the idea of doing good. I was in Manila, actually, for
Philippines.
Yeah,
shouts out
for another event. We're writing a textbook on migration issues and stuff. But I was in a bus. We were going to dinner. Me and this Filipino business guy, who's super wealthy guy, and I was telling him about Endiro and what we were doing, and I was using this term business as mission. Like, we have this mission, and we're doing this business to accomplish that mission. He said, yeah, but all you're really doing is making money and giving that money away. That's business for mission, which is good, but it's not business as mission. Huh. And then we spent about an hour on that bus, just him explaining the difference, that you have to go back and look at each and every operation or movement of a business and ask yourself, can this thing that we're doing, can it help accomplish that bigger mission? Like our packaging, like we're in a process right now. We have, some of you guys are buying our coffee at Trader Joe's. Thanks for that. But we have our coffee packaging. It's beautiful. But we're unhappy because it's not sustainable packaging. So we're in the process of just trying to transition from packaging that is like the normal stuff that you find on most supermarket shelves to something that is completely 100% sustainable. And it's extremely difficult to do because you can buy packaging that's 100% compostable, but then nobody composts it, so it's not doing anything. But by basically just breaking down in the landfill. So, it's been but that becomes a critical question. Like, how do we, if our packaging is destroying the planet, then can we really say we're brewing all the good we can?
Right.
If I maybe could spend an extra 10 or 15 cents per package and actually be doing something positive,
right?
Why not do that, right? Or this idea of hiring talent, like in my previous career in working for a large evangelical denomination, we were told to recruit high caliber leaders. That was obviously a very Southern gun-toting sort of denomination to use the term like high caliber.
Yeah,
but nevertheless,
kind of a frog in a corner,
right.
ego riding.
Yeah, so that was the idea. Was you should always hire the best talent, right? And I thought that was true. And with Endiro, we realized, what if we didn't do that? I mean, what if we just said no? How about we just hire people who need a job and we work harder at training them?
Right.
And developing ways that they can be mentoring one another. Let's just see what happens. And it's been cool. We've not been successful 100% of the time, nowhere near it, but we are seeing people go from being a barista or a cook or a server to becoming an assistant manager or a GM. Or now that we have the roastery growing, we're creating jobs kind of in a more mid-management level. We have an IT job that the guy who we hired in 2017 as one of our first cooks at Endiro Aurora. He then became a manager at Aurora, and then he worked over in Uganda at several of the shops as a manager, mm-hmm. and now he's our director of IT and is about to go off to school. And we're going to lose him. But but instead of hiring somebody that was like an IT expert, we just watched this guy grow up with us and just created that space for him to do it. And it's a very cool, exciting story,
Absolutely.
So we're seeing more of those kinds of stories, which is very fun. And if he goes off and he becomes some rich and famous, IT guy, that's amazing. If he stays with us, that's also amazing. But hopefully our business can keep growing fast enough create more space for these young people as they keep growing.
Right.
Some of them outgrow us too fast, which is okay. But,
Yeah, that's okay too.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, it is.
Wow, the time is 10:24. So recently, you won the Business Excellence, or you were awarded Business Excellence Award via the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. How did that feel?
It was good. It was good.
Right.
I was
Saw pictures of the event. Looked great.
I was very honest with my wife, Catherine. Like, I think I will be very petty and a sore loser if I don't win. But I was so glad. So for one, just so I didn't have to make a scene or something like that. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't have made it. I'd have been very polite. But it is obviously very cool to be recognized by people locally. And then since that award, the nominations for that went around the country to various chamber executives, it's nice to see like kind of third party people just looking at us on paper and saying, yeah, this is a good business. And also we're about to grow significantly, so we actually won't qualify for the Small Business Award next year. So it's nice to get that now while we can. So maybe next year we'll win the medium-sized business or something. But it's nice. It's nice to do
good
that.
stuff.
It's been a good year. So we got that recently, and then the Specialty Food Association, this was a big one for us, recognized our coffee as their best new product for 2022, which has prompted us to, has prompted a lot of companies to reach out to us to become their coffee supplier, which we can't keep up with. So we had to push pause on sales and kind of reevaluate our approach so we could scale up. But that's why we're not going to be a small business next year, because we're going to be very big.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. The Specialty Food Association. Okay, good stuff. So, personally, what's next for Cody Lorance?
I can be really honest. I know I need to just get real for a minute. I need to spend a little time on myself. Not to be, I mean, I'm Gen X, so we're not very fluffy people. But after a while, it starts to catch up with you, So it's a good time for us to grow and expand, because we're getting to create jobs for people. We've got a couple people working at our coffee shops now that are going to get to have some full-time salaried leadership positions soon as we grow, which is really exciting. And they're like Aurora people, so it's nice to create those opportunities for young people. Just letting their resume be their time with us already, rather than an actual resume, and just give them that promotion. It's a promotion. It's not like the jobs don't exist until these guys actually move into those jobs, and then they become those jobs. But as we're growing and as we're raising new people up in Uganda and in the US, it's going to create opportunity for me to kind of not completely chill, but maybe
delegate,
go to the doctor once in a while, maybe exercise, maybe take a vacation, which I haven't had in a very long time. So that's next. And my kids are not getting any younger, so I want to spend some more time doing some family stuff if possible, or I just make them work and I can just chill at home.
Good. Go Dad. Sally Bice, about to grow. Can you elaborate? I think it just did a little bit. Tracy Duran, love for Endiro. Love their yay for Endiro. Love their stuff. We do too. And Buzz Fisher, good morning to you. All right. The time is 10:27. So now the downtown where you guys are at, you guys are right across the street from Valley Dole. What's the exact address?
We're at that's my home. 29 West New York Street.
29 West New York Street. Where's the roastery located?
The roastery right now is at 213 South River. So we're hoping we're going to be growing and expanding into some new facilities probably early next year. So stay tuned for that. We're going from about 50 tons of coffee produced at that facility to about 400 tons of coffee produced annually.
400 tons.
Yeah, obviously that's not all going to the coffee shop, but we have a long list of clients that are waiting. So we hope to see some new farmer groups coming into. So Bukalasi is the coffee that everybody loves and has at Trader Joe's and at the shop. But we have new villages coming along. By the way, all these villages, all these farmer groups are women-led groups, and That's a big priority to us. It's all 100% organic and it's sustainably produced coffee. All of that's essential for us. So the growth is everywhere from the tree, what we're doing at the farm level, to the cup. So there will be more cafes coming, mostly outside of the U.S.
Right.
But that's okay. You guys can travel to Uganda. You can go to Kenya, maybe other countries. We'll announce when that happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't speak to many people who've done a lot of traveling. I don't speak to many people who are familiar with trade on a large level. So I'll take the chance to ask this question now. Is international trade exploitative?
Usually, sure.
Okay.
I mean, there was a big transatlantic one that happened for a while. That was
of course.
pretty
Yeah.
So we know that that there are skeletons in that closet. You know that we're literally a part of transatlantic trade right now because we are bringing coffee from Uganda to the United States.
Right.
So we're very conscious of that entire history, and I think it has to be changed. There's problems with what's happening on boats and the quality of life for mariners that live on these boats 9 months out of the year. So that's a big issue. There's a problem when you realize that it costs me more to bring a container from New York to Chicago than for it to go all the way from Kampala to New York. That's a problem when I'm spending more on the last few miles, basically.
Right.
So there's exploitation inherent in that system. There's exploitation in the coffee industry in general. There's exploitation at every point, whether it's exploiting the environment or farming families or whatever it is, which is exactly why we're in that industry, because we have to be. I'm looking at this more as now a prophetic role that we play, that we have to be a company that does things differently and points out the issues that still need to be solved. We used to do that as a very small company that had no voice. We're still a very small player in the global scheme of things.
Sure. But
as we get more and more of a voice, we're hoping to be faithful to use that voice to keep pointing out the injustice and the exploitation that happens. So, but I do encourage people to buy high-end specialty coffee, particularly from East Africa, because East African coffee has not been produced by slave trade, you know?
Right.
Whereas, unfortunately, a lot of coffee that's from this hemisphere has a long history of being cultivated and created through slavery, and then basically practically still slavery for generations after quote unquote legal slavery ended.
Right.
So that's still a problem. There's some great coffee coming out of Latin America, but give that East African coffee a try, especially if it's high-end specialty stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And if you like cheap coffee, I just suggest drink Coke, because cheap coffee is definitely exploiting people. There's no way around it. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that, because again, as I told you before the microphone came on, I think what you guys are doing is great, and I believe in the mission. I always have, and I like to see business owners and people who take the extra step to give back. And what that giving back looks like is just simply access or opportunity. It says a lot about it says a lot about a business to allow for a community fridge to operate. It says a lot about these different businesses and they do it in different ways, you know. And so now I appreciate that, and I don't think that enough people understand how exploitative the world is in different areas and different aspects. I'm not familiar with international trade. I haven't traded or bought a container of anything from another country. But from what I see and read, have understood, it has been predominantly exploitative to African countries and growers and farmers and manufacturers and all that. So you're the first person I've ever had to ask and speak to about that.
The nice thing is that we are working very closely now with the Ugandan government at the highest levels, literally the highest level. It blows me away, but change some of that from a Ugandan perspective. So we can't speak to any other country in the world, but we are getting to work at a high level in Uganda to change some of the narrative, so that hopefully we get to see not just coffee, but some other really cool products come on U.S. shelves that will also have a similar narrative of creating wealth and opportunity for farmers at the farm level. Stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned. The time is 10:33 from Oklahoma to the world and back again. Quite a story.
Yeah, let me just invite you guys, check us out on First Friday.
Certainly.
First Friday, we've got Funk Brothers in town. They were here a couple months ago, and I had got COVID like that day, so I didn't get to see them, and they're really awesome. So I invited them to come back, so they're performing. And then we're having one of our big hot food for everyone events with Indivisible Aurora. So we'll be having a big cookout. So it's pay what you want, pay what you can. So it's an opportunity for people that struggling with inflation and stuff like that to come and eat good food for not so much money or no money, and come out and support it.
Absolutely. Good Morning Aurora will consistently be happy to share those events with our listeners and folks. And if and that's this first Friday?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be on the microphone at McCarty Mills doing my hosting for Hip Hop and Tacos, so a brother may not make this one, but I'll be down there, my man. I'll be down there. Cody,
Yes.
good meeting you.
Thanks, man. Good to be here.
I'm glad to meet you. I'm glad to highlight what Endiro Coffee is doing, and I'm glad to learn more and learn from you and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that a lot of you guys like Endiro Coffee, so continue to shout out and drink Endiro Coffee and support the team and support Cody here. So we have more coming up with the Great Business Excellence Award winners from the Chamber of Commerce. So thank you very much to the Chamber. Jennifer Charles, Jessica Linder Gallo, thanks for putting us in touch with great people. We are glad to support what they do here in our city. Take care of yourself and each other.